Hello, welcome to the Crownsman Show. I am your host, Jared Downey. Very excited to have Hubbard-Hall on the show. They've been around for 175 years. That is a legacy. it's incredible. We have Fernando Carminholi. Sorry, Fernando. How do you actually say your last name?
Fernando Carminholi. That's the right way, but that's good.
You tapered down the Italian a little bit on that, though.
Yeah, like I said, like my nonna used to say Carmignoli.
Yeah, which is the makes it sound like such a great name. And then you are the business development manager at Hubbard-Hall, and Robin Deal, you are the product manager at Hubbard-Hall. Do I have that right?
That is correct. Yes.
Welcome to the show. Sorry about the delay before we started rolling. It does happen in these productions. We're filming this at WEFTech. I think let's start with maybe Robin or Fernando, whoever is the best person to do it. Just a high-level discussion of who Hubbard-Hall is. 175 years. That's a insane legacy for a company. But just an intro for anybody who doesn't know you.
So Hubbard-Hall is a chemical manufacturer. So we manufacture chemicals for the different industries. It's 175 years of legacy. We're on the sixth generation with the same family. So our CEO, she lead us to the industry to say like using less chemistry. So nowadays, this is what keep us alive, because all this market, all this relationship with our customers, always the trust between us, and makes us like the position where we are today. So 175 years, we produce chemicals in 3 different sites. We have different product lines that we can go over late, but that's it. Robin, want to compliment something?
Yeah. So if you're ever in Waterbury, Connecticut, where our headquarters are, you can actually go into the original Hubbard-Hall, which was called Apothecary Hall in 1849.
Apothecary Hall?
Donut now.
It's called Apothecary. That's great.
We started out as an apothecary. Over the years, Hubbard-Hall evolved to supply the agricultural industry. And from there, we got into the metal finishing industry. So anything to do with metal finishing, cleaning, surface prep, wastewater treatment, that's what Hubbard-Hall supplies chemicals for. The product line I manage is our wastewater product line.
Which is the focus I've here, of course, at WEFTech. You've got some great, you've got a great sort of thing. It's, let me see, it's treat the hard to treat, clean the hard to clean, finish the hard to finish. I think you're going to start with the treat the hard to treat. I'm starting to say it too much and starting to stumble. Can you walk us through it a bit? And also, if you want to reference, I noticed on your website you have these different videos. You actually have playlists on your YouTube for different product lines within the treat the hard to treat. So if you could just walk us through that, Robin, that would be great.
No problem. So what we say when we say we treat the hard to treat is metal finishing manufacturers typically have extremely difficult wastewater streams that need to be treated. They're heavy metals. There's a lot of FOG. They're high BOD, COD. There might be phosphorus. All these processes that supply us everything that we need, from automotive to a fork that you eat your dinner with, generates a wastewater stream. So those wastewater streams typically are heavily chelated, meaning that there's a chemical reaction that happened in the manufacturing processes that holds on to those metals and refuse to let the metals come out of water in wastewater treatment. So they're very difficult to treat. That's what we specialize in, is helping customers understand what production processes are impacting their wastewater treatment processes and how we can either chemically or biologically remove the contaminants they need to meet their discharge limits, or we can look upstream into the actual production process and change maybe take a heavily chelated cleaner out and replace it with a non-chelated cleaner so that the wastewater is then easier to treat. Or we can look at maybe they're doing a zinc phosphate coating in prep for paint, but they can go from that zinc phosphate, which contributes high zinc and high phosphorus into the wastewater. Maybe they can replace it with a zirconium coating, and now they have a less, an easier to treat, less environmentally impacted wastewater stream.
Fernando, you were interrupting
So
here?
that,
We're talking about less sludge, less footprint, less
yes.
temperature. That will lead less sludge going through the wastewater.
Let's talk about our heavy industry tour brought to you by Orica Digital Solutions, leading drill and blast into a new era with next-gen Shot Plus. With market-leading design tools and predictive modeling capabilities, next-gen Shot Plus equips drill and blast professionals to effectively improve blast designs and achieve optimal outcomes. Click below to learn more about next-gen Shot Plus. We are heading to events across North America and Australia and filming episodes on location. Email us at info@crownsman.com to be part of Crownsman's Heavy Industry Tour. Are you facing the challenges of CO2 shortages in your construction projects? Secure your CO2 supply today with Tomco Systems, the pioneers in CO2 equipment solutions. With over 45 years of experience, Tomco transforms challenges into solutions, offering a comprehensive range of CO2 products for water treatment, storage, and transportation. Tomco Systems' patented CO2-based water treatment and wastewater treatment solutions have gained global recognition for their efficient and precise pH control systems. Whether you need pH reduction for municipal process treatment or industrial wastewater, their line of carbonic acid storage and feed products will provide you with 95% or greater efficiency in reaching your target pH. Don't let shortages slow you down. Visit tomcosystems.com to learn more. Pumping systems. They're the heartbeat of manufacturing, but they can be real headaches, can't they? Vibration, pulsation, back pressure, it's a wonder anything gets done efficiently or safely. That's where Blaco comes in. Their pulsation dampeners, back pressure valves, and other solutions are designed to tame the chaos, improve efficiency, and add reliability and safety to your pumping system. Imagine less downtime, lower maintenance costs, and a whole lot less stress. That's the Blaco difference. Blaco Industries, smooth flow, smooth operation, made in the USA. Visit Blaco.com to learn more.
So I'm just curious here, because I was expecting that basically these companies would come to you, they'd have an order of what they need, but you're actually getting involved in their process, making recommendations for how they would do it. Like you're actually talking about changing the coating.
In some cases, yes, that is 100% what needs to happen. And in the cases where it doesn't happen, where we can't, maybe it's a spec that they have to use a zinc phosphate coating, or they have to use a specific rust preventative because their customers dictate what they use. So then we look at how they treat that wastewater stream. And historically, for example, lime has been the best coagulant. It gives you the calcium for your coagulation. It gives you hydroxide for pH adjustment to pull metals out. But in using lime, you generate an excessive amount of sludge. You get lime scale buildup in your pipes and in your pumps. So every couple of months, you're having to cut out pipe and replace it with fresh pipe, or you're having to replace the pump every 6-8 months because the lime builds up in these in the nooks and crannies of the pump and in the piping and clogs it. And so where you have a 4-inch pipe discharging 500 gallons a minute of wastewater, the lime scale slowly closes that pipe down, and you might only wind up discharging 50 to 60 gallons of wastewater because of the constriction that the lime does. And then you're backflowing into your system, you're overflowing. Your wastewater tanks are overflowing. You're having to shut down production processes until you fix that. So we go in and we say, okay, if we pull the lime out and when you no longer use lime, and when you give a proprietary coagulant package where we can successfully treat your wastewater to meet your discharge limits, now you're not producing 30 tons a day of wastewater, of sludge from your wastewater process, or a 25-yard roll-off a day. Now you're producing that in 3 or 4 months. So you're having less hazardous waste haul off. You're no longer having to replace your pumps and pipes 2 or 3 times a year. and you're using significantly less chemistry to do the same thing.
Which is Fernando. That's what you were talking about. That your directive has been to the company wants to use less. What was the term? You said less chemistry, right?
Yeah. Actually, all the product lines, we're trying to see what is the best way to the customer reduce the footprint. I will give one example, which is a real example. We jump on the automotive market, like metal fabricators, auto parts, like battery manufacturers. They have a challenge. For example, today on the cleaning world, they need to clean before apply, for example, some coating. And by environmental regulation, there is some restriction on solvent cleaning, for example, which Hubbard-Hall, this is the beauty of Hubbard-Hall. We supply both worlds, aqueous cleaners and solvent cleaning. And so the decision was drive on the customer to make this move on what have the lower impact, less chemistry, generate less sludge, or using less water, or using less power, and keeping on the same quality level. For this, I will give one example. Normally, when you use a cleaner, you're cleaning oils from the parts that was stamped or honing, all kind of lubricants that came on the parts using your cleaner, and this cleaner is saturated with oil. When you get the saturation point, normally it goes to the stream on the wastewater, or you need a third-party company to pick it up this waste, and you pay for this waste to get out of your plant. So Hubbard-Hall also has a alternative for a equipment, for example, to reclaim the cleaner, remove all the oil that is emulsified. I mean, emulsify means all the oil, they're linked with the solution. You don't see two-phase. So, but you cannot use because it's full of oil. With this equipment, which is one membrane filtration, you remove all the oil from the solution and reclaim the cleaner. That will be good to use again without dumping in any solution or add more product to the tank, or even having the what we call downtiming, which you need to stop your production to clean the tank, clean the make up a new one, wait to the temperature and start up again. So this is some of the ways how we can help our customers using less product, less chemistry, saving energy, and that will be, on the end of the chain. That is the difference between Hubbard-Hall and most of the competition. The mindset.
Did you know cementitious binders can be responsible for up to 70% of the total GHG footprint of mine backfilling processes? Now you can replace up to 50% of the binder in your mine backfill operations with Graybond, Graybond's new low-carbon cementitious binder. This lime-based alternative binder maintains a 40 to 70% lower GHG footprint compared to typical cement and can adapt to varying mine conditions without compromising performance. Learn more about Graybond at graybond.com. When it comes to balancing the growing demand on your grid with the growing need for more responsible, sustainable energy production and generation, you need the right partner. A partner who delivers long-standing grid expertise from a team dedicated to your unique needs, and one who supports that team with innovations designed for the future needs of your grid, while being rooted in proven electrification excellence. ABB is that partner, offering solutions that meet technical requirements, regulatory compliance, and recognize the need for sustainability in your business operations, as well as in the lives of the surrounding communities. Solutions that expertly blend physical services and solutions with next-level digitization. Solutions that enable safer, smarter, more sustainable operations. ABB is the name to trust to help modernize your grid. Learn more at abb.com/CA. Join us in the depths of the mining world, where global leaders and industry giants converge to shape the future of mining. From groundbreaking technologies, advanced machinery, revolutionary safety measures, to sustainable initiatives. This is the voice of mining. This is Mining Now. Showcase your company to millions worldwide. Book your episode now. Visit crownsman.com.
The educational part of this, how difficult is it to, if you've got a company that's using lime, how difficult is it to, now, do they have to change anything within their systems? Because I wanted to clarify something. Hubbard-Hall, they're just selling the chemicals, right? You're not selling machine processes like feeders or anything like that for the chemicals, are you?
Correct.
Okay.
So from the wastewater standpoint, no, we don't sell any equipment. What Fernando was just talking about for the membrane filtration of the cleaner to reclaim cleaner, we do sell that equipment.
Okay, it sounded like there was an equipment component to it. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Only this equipment for that could be used in cleaners. That could be used in the wastewater to remove emulsified oil that goes to the stream. That could be used in other different usage, like when you have a mop machine that you clean the floor and you need to reclaim this to reuse, and then you remove the oil out of that solution. That's the only equipment that it's part of our portfolio to help use less chemistry. Otherwise, we're just partnering with equipment manufacturers to have the best for our customers to use our products.
So then, Robin, going back to the wastewater, then are these changes, what is the process if they want to switch from, let's say, a limed, or another example if you want to use it, to your products?
So typically what happens is we get a call. Myself or one of my wastewater expert team members will go into a customer and we do what's called a system evaluation. So we look at everything that feeds into their wastewater system. We look at their wastewater equipment, their current setup, whether they have lamella clarifiers or a DAF, or they're batch treating, or they have a flow through, or they have a membrane system. We look at everything they're doing, and then we say, okay, what do you want to see improved, or what do you want to change? Some cases they don't have capital to change their equipment. What they have is what they have.
So in some cases, though, So in some cases, it would be an equipment change then.
Yes.
Okay.
So, like we're working with a customer now that wants to remove their membranes. They don't want to do membrane filtration anymore. So we're recommending chemicals that they can use in a lamella clarifier type situation for acetylene versus the membrane filtration. And then we've recommended different companies that they can contact who can supply a project engineer to come in and design the equipment they need and help them get that going.
I'm having to look up what a lamella clarifier is. So this is like a cone. It's actually settles in the bottom and then feeds out.
Yeah. So a lamella clarifier versus a circular clarifier is the water feeds in at the top and goes down at a slant with the solids in it. And that slant, there's a calculation for how fast the solids fall down that slant into that cone bottom, and the clean water goes over the top weir, and the sludge is removed from the bottom of the
And
clarifier.
what the chemical is doing is separating it. It's basically attaching to that waste or whatever that is, and then separating it from
to
the
help
water.
it settle. Yeah, to help it settle out faster.
So they want to switch. So in this example, they want to switch from a membrane system, which is basically a filtration system, right? It's a filter.
Right.
Is that right? And so
It's a filter. What's happened is they have a heavy organic load in their wastewater, and over the years, their membranes don't do well from the wastewater only standpoint if they have a heavy organic load. So they foul fast, and they're having to stop production to clean their wastewater membranes, because if they don't have capacity to hold the rinses from the production, you have to shut production down, because you can't discharge water doesn't meet standards, right? So you wind up shutting down production. So in their case, as over the years, as they've grown and evolved and added new process lines, the membrane no longer works for them.
So in a typical system, I want to kind of bring back the hard to clean, hard to finish, hard to treat. How much in a system typically would your chemicals be throughout a system? Because in a processing plant, there's going to be the wastewater. There's going to be often they'll be finishing. So you're kind of integrated into the entire system often. Would that be fair to say?
Correct. So the thing that's unique about Hubbard-Hall is we manufacture all of these chemicals. So we manufacture the cleaners, we manufacture the phosphates, we manufacture the metal colorants, the conversion coatings. We understand the chemistry that went into manufacturing them, so we know how to treat them successfully. So from a wastewater standpoint, if they don't need an equipment change, our chemistry will just go right into, often what we see is because we use significantly less coagulants in the wastewater side, they actually might have to downsize the chemical feed pump. And that would be the only change they would have to make.
Right. But that would also be then they're using less energy and that part of it, right? Yeah.
Less chemistry, less energy, which follows our owner Molly's directive of do more with less.
Okay, Fernando, I want to talk about just quickly the clean the hard to clean. I know you're at WEFTEC, but I really do want to touch on this because you had some videos on your website, on your YouTube, and I encourage people to go check it out. There's one where you're cleaning an aluminum wheel, and I think it's actually a painted aluminum wheel. I think it's
Okay, we have all the pre-treatment that will pre-paint. All the to hold the paint on the wheel, right? Clean, deoxidize the wheel to receive the paint. We have this pre-treatment line. This is all on the surface cleaning umbrella, and also we have the paint stripping side. Okay, if something goes wrong with the wheel, you need to strip and start again, or even with because normally they're painted in racks. And you hang the wheel or other different parts. So you give me the example of the wheel, and then we have the paint strippers that will work to remove the paint. So I would comment one feature about the paint strippers because we understand the pre-treatment. We know what will be underneath the paint, so we can choose the right paint stripper. That will be, don't think only on the part, because the racks that will produce, you will hang the parts to paint, you need to remove, because if you go and do like 10 turns on the line, it will be 10 coatings of paint. Suddenly, it will not work well. And then you need to remove this paint. Normally, what the customers do, they put on the burn-off ovens, and burn all this paint. That will drive to a lot of ashes that need to be removed. That can mess up with your painting system as well. So this is one alternative. The second alternative will be hammering and remove physically this paint. With the chemical stripping, that is it will be more environmental solution, because you will basically taking care of the solution will be the same solution for a long time. And a lot of one different thought is we sometimes the customer is not ready to have this paint stripping tank. So what do we have as alternative for the market? We're partnering with equipment manufacturers. And this is one thing that we can do. We can lease the equipment with the chemicals. This is fairly new on the market. We don't see that many other companies doing that, but it's a kind of a turnkey solution to put the tank together with the chemicals for the customer that don't want to put all the money in advance. And that will be better to handle the return on the investment, how to handle the parts. So a lot of different parts, for example, furniture office, wheel manufacturers, they will compare the cost, right? They will compare like burn off ovens. They own the ovens. That will be how many BTUs they use to burn the paint, how often they need to burn the paint off. Comparing with the chemical stripping, we see a advantage. We see value for the customer to reduce the energy, reduce the chemical usage. You don't need to dump the solution, and so that's all the solution that we can bring when you're talking about uh, uh, something to be cleaned, like hard to clean. That's part of this umbrella.
Yeah, I wanted to just bring, and both of you to come in on this. How important is the partnerships between the companies that are making the equipment that you're operating within? Are you generally working directly with the manufacturer, or are you often working with the equipment, the equipment suppliers as well, to sort of just line everything up right?
You mean the equipment manufacturer, right?
The equipment manufacturers that are selling into the manufacturer of the actual product.
So say we have customer A who needs a wastewater system, and they already buy our cleaners, or they already buy something, or maybe they don't. Maybe they found us through looking for who can remove nickel from their wastewater, and they find us. But they need a wastewater system. I can link them directly with the wastewater system manufacturers who can come in with a project engineer. They can design, they can spec out, they can help them apply for the permits for discharge, or maybe they already have a system they need upgrades. We can work directly with customer A and manufacturer B and link them together so that there is a cohesive flow of, we understand how much water they're going to be generating for the wastewater system, or we understand how big their tank needs to be for the cleaning application, how many turnovers it's going to get. So that's kind of a unique angle that Hubbard-Hall has, is that we can connect the right people with the right people.
Yeah, that's the key. Having the right people, the right supplier for the equipment. Also, it's a big challenge because the country is so wide. You know, a lot of customers in Canada as well. So those equipment manufacturers, maybe they are more local. Something that will work on the Texas area will not work on the New England area, for example, by the equipment manufacturer. So not that many partners, but the right and the right partners for different occasions.
Robin, is there an example? It's always nice to kind of bring it into a real world example. Is there any maybe a recent project that sort of stands out to you that goes, this is where we were able to really offer value into someone's process?
Definitely. We have a customer that generates a lot of copper. They take in copper and recycle it for secondary purposes. So their wastewater stream is heavily laden, over 1,000 milligrams per liter copper in their wastewater, both soluble and insoluble. We were called in they asked us, could we help them? Their wastewater system was kind of out of whack. They were using a lot of ferric-based coagulants, a couple of different metal precipitants. They were using like 5 different chemicals. Their sludge was having to be hauled off as hazardous waste. They were just really struggling with their wastewater, and they were generating a ton of sludge. So when we got involved, we asked them, and this is something that we ask all of our customers, what are your goals with your wastewater system? So we understand and we can make a project where we could work together to achieve it. And they wanted to use less chemistry, and they wanted to know if they could potentially send their sludge off for recycling because it was so heavily laden with copper, rather than sending it off for hazardous waste disposal. So we did a full study on their wastewater system. We did what's called a treatability study, where we looked at the different cleaners that they were using that were chelating the copper and making it more difficult to remove from their wastewater. We got our director of cleaning technology involved, and he made some recommended changes on the cleaner side so that the wastewater would be easier to treat. And we pulled them off of ferric or iron-based coagulants and put them on a calcium-based coagulant program And now they are their sludge is over 10% copper, so they can send it off for recycling. So now they're no longer a large quantity hazardous waste generator, they're a recycling generator.
Wow. 10%. That's
And
really,
we
really
also-
high.
Yeah, we also took them from 5 chemicals to 3 in their wastewater system.
Wow. So a system like that, how long would that take from the time you first start talking to them to the time that their system's fully operational?
In that case, it took us about 90 days because we involved the cleaning aspect and production aspect, and we had to make sure that their cleanliness of their parts was still intact, that it met their customer requirements for passing certain tests. So it took a little bit longer. There are cases where we do have a case where a remanufacturing facility, was using ferric chloride and lime for coagulation and pH adjustment, producing a 20-yard roll-off of hazardous waste sludge every other day. We were able to change them from those 2 products and put them on a sodium hydroxide for pH adjustment, which greatly reduced their chemical usage. And we were able to put them on a proprietary product that removed the metals, the nickel, the chrome, the zinc, the copper that they needed to remove, as well as the oils and greases that they had in their wastewater from the remanufacturing, and significantly reduce that from 2 to 3 roll-offs a week to 1 roll-off a month. So greatly reducing the hazardous waste sludge. And in doing that, they are, again, they're still considered a large quantity generator, but their environmental impact is significantly less than what it was.
How much of that, like across the U.S., Canada, how many systems out of 1,000 systems that you could be in, would 80% of them be using systems that maybe are from 20 years ago, that they're just producing more waste than is needed, that they're being harder on their equipment that's needed? What do you think if you were to go to 1,000 sites, or let's say 100 sites? How many do you think?
I'm going to say if I went to 1,000 metal finishing facilities, and there are greatly more than 1,000 in North America, but if I went to 1,000, I'm going to say about 90% of them would be using outdated equipment.
Damn.
Because
Yeah,
the systems were typically built in the 70s and 80s, maybe even the 90s. So it was significantly longer than an expected lifespan of 15 years. Manufacturing picked up. They added more process lines, more plating lines, paint lines. But because wastewater treatment is a cost, not a money's typically not invested in it. So we go into places where the pumps are so old and so corroded, they're leaking everywhere. We have to make recommendations. Hey, you really need to upgrade this. Or where they're using old logarithmic PLC controls that have no intelligence, and they want to upgrade to a system that can monitor and give them remote monitoring capabilities so that the system can run 24 hours a day without someone physically being there. And they can get alarms on their phone if their pH is out of whack, or if they have a low level in a tank, or different things can happen. We're seeing more companies investing in that now as they set ESG goals, so the environmental impact goals become primarily a large focus today, where 40 years ago it wasn't that big of a deal.
Yeah, it's.
Right?
Especially this WEFTEC episode. And I was saying yesterday on the 3rd interview, I'm noticing that water is unique in the way. Let's say lumber. Lumber is something when people are building something, you go out. Water, because it's so integrated into the infrastructure in basically U.S., Canada. I mean, the infrastructure is already there. So all the water treatment suppliers and manufacturers, they're almost all seem to be reacting to problems. They're getting called when there's an issue, which is quite unique, right? Every other industry is pretty proactive in what you're doing. In water, you're kind of like you're saying though, it's a cost.
Here in the United States, in the public water network, right, um, they lose over, I'm going to say something like 2 million gallons of water a day is lost due to leaks,
Wow,
right?
that is crazy.
And we scale that down to a manufacturer, plating facility. Maybe they're making cars, all right? An automotive facility that's going to make a car. Do you know how much water it takes to make a car?
I don't.
Over 40,000 gallons of water
Oh my. Okay.
to make a car. So when we're talking about bringing jobs in and building new automotive manufacturing sites, these guys are looking for places where they can get tax breaks, where there's infrastructure that will supply that water and handle the wastewater. But because we're entering an age of water scarcity, right? So much of the world is in water scarce or drought conditions. They have to look at ways to recycle the water they use, to reclaim it and put it back in production. And that's where we come in. How do we reduce your chemical footprint? How do we reduce your water discharge? How do we look at how much water do you generate? Where are those processes generated at? Like Fernando talked about earlier, paint stripping, when we do burn off of the travelers, the hooks that carry the parts through the powder coat lines, and the powder coat builds up and builds up, there's no longer conductivity between the part to make the powder coat process work. You have to remove the paint or the powder coat from that traveler, that hook, burn off, then burns the paint off, but now you have an ash coating and you still can't use that hook. So now you have to clean it and you have to rinse it, and you're producing more and more water doing these steps. Where if you chemically strip it, and like you mentioned, our YouTube channel, you can see the powder coat stripping in a solid layer coming off of a panel. We can do that with these hooks or with parts that need to be reworked. You go into you take your hook offline, or maybe even do it inline. You go into the bath and then go straight into a rinse, and you can recycle that rinse, and you can recycle that paint stripper by filtering out the paint particles. We have customers that haven't dumped their paint strippers in 7-8 years.
Wow. Wow.
And that's less water going into their wastewater systems.
Yeah.
That's less water being used for a manufacturing process.
I think that the filling of the water is cheap, and the water can be a recycle. People does not understand the usage. People do not understand what is the cost right now. I mean, even after COVID, how the costs changed compared on the 90s and the 80s. It's tremendous how the cost of the water, the usage of the water in your system is so impacting comparing with the years ago.
One of the things that we look at is the true cost to manufacture. Say you're making a widget. What is your cost to manufacture that widget? Your chemical cost, your labor cost. And then we also want to add in a water cost, right? We have to be aware of how much water we use. When you buy a cleaner from Hubbard-Hall, you buy a concentrated cleaner, we say make it down to 10%, right? So 90 gallons of water to 10 gallons of our cleaner, and you can use that, and you can continue to use that cleaner through filtration, where we remove the oils and the contaminants, and now that cleaner lasts indefinitely. You do have to make regular add backs through things like natural evaporation, or the surfactants in the cleaner break down over time. So we have to maintain the bath. But now that 100 gallons doesn't hit your wastewater all at once.
Yeah, one case study talking about this. We have a customer that it's a multiple plating lines, right? And the cleaner, the situation before was those tanks, as soon as get saturated, they just dump on the system, on the wastewater, and that generate about 5,000 gallons of concentrated cleaner as a 10%, right? The solution of the cleaner is a 10%. And using the membrane filtration to reclaim that solution and get back to the working tank. So this customer is already on the schedule for no dumping at 5 years, 5.5 years already, with working with the same solution. So it brought a cost saving on the chemicals about 40%,
Wow. Wow.
and that's it. So comparing cost by cost and chemicals with the competition, that would be all fairly close. But when you have one alternative that you bring that will reduce 40%, that the impact is totally different. That will impact on your
Yeah.
wastewater. That will impact in your downtiming. That as soon as your line is stopped to do the maintenance, you are not producing. So that's most the revenue will come from
I,
the line.
just to wrap up the interview, and I know I just want to quickly clarify Hubbard-Hall, that worldwide distribution, right? Is it and you have
Correct,
how many?
yes.
Three
Right.
manufacturing facilities? Is that correct as well?
Yes, we have three manufacturing sites in the United States, and then we have three warehousing locations outside of our manufacturing warehousing sites, and then we have distributors
Yeah.
globally.
We have partners in Canada. We have a distributor in Mexico, two distributors in Mexico, and we have global customers. We have customers in Asia. We have customers in Europe. We have
India.
customers in India. Yep.
So you're
That
doing.
we
So are
ship
you
our
doing a
product.
mixture of distribution partners and direct? Then, is it a mix?
Correct.
Oh,
Yes.
okay.
It is a mix.
Okay. I wanted to just ask a quick question before we go, because I think it's a key one. Are regulations, you mentioned ESG, but are government regulations driving some of this change as well? And I know that can vary state by state in Canada, province by province. But are you noticing that shift? Are the calls increasing because of regulatory
Yes.
things, compliance that they need to follow?
Yes. So we're especially with concerns around PFAS, right?
Yeah,
That could be
well,
a
I've been
whole
hearing
nother
that.
5-hour conversation. We don't want to get into it, but PFAS is becoming a major concern for metal finishers, and we're also seeing we're also seeing things that we call ultra low metal limits on our discharge permits, where uh, the Code of Federal Regulations said for years and years and years, metal finishers under a pre-treatment here in the United States under a pre-treatment permit can probably discharge copper. I think it was at 2.6 milligrams per liter. But now cities are saying, no, we can't take any more copper from you. We have to have it at 0.09 milligrams per liter. And how do we do that? Or maybe their nickel is at 0.9. Their permit's saying we need 0.9 milligrams per liter nickel. So yes, regulation changes are driving that. IRIS studies here in the United States, which is studied the toxicity and the environmental impacts of different chemicals, are constantly every year rolling out new studies. Chromium was a study that was recently completed. So there are a lot of regulation changes that are driving as we become more aware of our impact on our water supplies.
I will include as well the regulation on the solvents, which you have all the chlorinated, brominated, all the methylene chloride based solvents. Some of the states cannot use anymore, and customers looking for alternatives. And that's the thing. Or you change the equipment, which we talked about, like most of those equipments from 60s, 70s, really old equipment. But or they change for a new equipment, or they need to change the chemicals. That's always a cost, included. Or they need to think totally different than solvents and change for aqueous cleaners. So all those alternatives we have a technical team that can go and support the decision. We can show for the customer with data. For example, we partner with a company that you can measure how clean is the part, measure the cleanliness of the part, and say, hey, today I'm doing like TCE, and I need to replace TCE. What is the best alternative? We can go and have a cleaning study and say, hey, your best alternative will be another solvent. And here, the data that you have today comparing with the new cleaner, or you changing this, or you need to change solvent to aqueous cleaner, and then that will be the equipment, and that come with the equipment partners that we spoke before. So it's on the same pot, taking the decision together with the customer, but all data driven.
Robin, Fernando, I feel I hope you enjoyed the show because we have so much more to cover, like the PFAS that I actually want to have that discussion with you. It's an important one. It's coming up all the time in planning for this show, and regulations. We didn't have time to cover it in the extent I would have liked to, but there's some really key topics that are important for a lot of different reasons. So, but thank you for being on the show. It was just a pleasure. I keep going, but unfortunately, we got to get to another episode to film.
I totally understand. Thank you, Jared.
It was a pleasure. Thank you so much.
I could go another hour just peppering you with questions, but I have to stop. So, thank you very much for joining. I hope we do. I really genuinely hope we do this again.
I'm sure we will. Thank you, Jared.
Okay, thank you both.
Thank
you everybody for watching. We're going to put a link to Hubbard-Hall's, obviously their website, but also go check out their YouTube. It's a very good, just simple video showing products actually working. You can follow them on LinkedIn. You can connect with both the guests on LinkedIn as well. If you're found us on LinkedIn, you can just tag. They'll be tagged. Make sure to follow us, subscribe. We love the support we have. We're going to be doing a lot more water treatment and water production and waste facility episodes. So please keep following us. We will see you on the next episode of The Crownsman Show.